Okay, we'll give it a go. My name is Alan Baker, and in my past lives, I was a senior information technology specialist at IBM. I've been a small business manager, and I was also an Air Force pilot in Vietnam. I've been a member of the San Jose, California IBM PC Club for 40 years. How is that even possible? Judging by seeing some gray hair here, I think some of you have probably been members of Central Kentucky for a while also.
That's
In
correct.
my retirement, I spend the cool months of each year in California and the warm months in Vermont. And I help in nonprofits in both those places with technology, and I give lectures through AARP Fraud Watch Network in Vermont and California. And my specialty is internet fraud and internet security. So, as we go along today, feel free to ask questions. Maybe when I get to the end of each slide, I'll ask you to hold up a hand or something. I may not be able to see you raise your hand, so if Ben, if you'll help me, or someone else will help me pose those questions. I won't be able to monitor the chat, but if you'll uh, help me out with that, I'll be glad to answer questions as we go.
Okay.
Well, first of all, anybody here still running Windows 10? I see one hand. Oh, I see Jose Medeiros, who followed me over from the PC Club meeting in California. Welcome, Jose.
Good to be here, Alan. Thank you.
So yeah, we're going to talk about Windows 10 and Windows 11 and how to get there from here. So let me start up my presentation. Are you able to see the slides?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Um, by the way, I've put a copy of these slides at the URL that you see at the bottom of the screen. So if you want to visit there after the presentation, you'll find all the information there. I've got links in the last slide, and also on the last
Also on the
slide,
last slide,
you'll find
you'll
this
find this
same link.
same link.
So don't worry about writing it down now. We'll get there again at the end of the presentation. So today we're going to talk about just three things, all about upgrading to Windows 11. Alternatives to upgrading to Windows 11, preparation to get there, how to do a standard upgrade plus troubleshooting, and then how to do non-standard upgrades when Microsoft's PC Health Check app says your hardware is incompatible. So, Windows 11 is at end of life. It was actually at end of life in October. So, now what? Do you have a plan, or are you gonna just continue on as you are? Well, that is an option. You can do nothing and continue on with Windows 10. I don't recommend that for multiple reasons. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a security guy, and there are multiple problems with staying on Windows 10. One is that there are existing zero-day exploits in Windows 10 already. And as future exploits and vulnerabilities are discovered in Windows 10 and 11, the ones in Windows 11 will be fixed. The ones in Windows 10 will not. And the bad guys are, some are not the sharpest knives in the drawer, but they do know enough to go where the money is, and that's where people have not patched their software. And in the case of Windows 10, it can't be patched unless you've arranged something elsewhere. Additionally, Windows 10 is kind of, pardon me, frozen in time. The developers are stopping developing software that's compatible with it. So over time, you're going to see hardware drivers, web browsers, applications no longer work nicely with Windows 10. So there are those who are remaining on Windows 10, but it's certainly opening up some holes in your security if you do it that way. One possibility to deal with this situation is to simply take your computer running Windows 10 off the internet, disconnect it from the internet entirely. And this could be a legit kind of thing to do if you've got some graphics program or something that you've got a very specific application that runs on Windows 10 and it won't run on Windows 11. You might want to do that. Just don't connect it up to the internet. Another way to continue on temporarily with Windows 10 is to use Microsoft's Extended Security Updates, ESU, for which you can pay $30 or you can use various Microsoft gimmicks like syncing and Microsoft points to earn that free. It's temporary. It's only going to be good until October 2026. But if you're unable for some reason to do something about it now, that is a way to postpone a decision, but you're going to have the decision to make in October anyway. So that's what we're going to talk about today is what are your choices? Another alternative is to buy a new computer. Well, that's what Microsoft and certainly the hardware vendors would love for you to do. It would support their business model of the hardware vendors, and Microsoft would love for you to have a clean installation of Windows 11 that reduces their support complexity. On the other hand, it does cost some money, and you may or may not be ready for a new computer. You've also got to migrate your applications that are installed on your old computer over to your new Windows 11 computer, which induces some complexity that it'll take you some work. Another possibility is to just go to an altogether different operating system on your existing hardware. For example, Linux Mint is a very Windows-like operating system. Chrome OS will also do the job, but they each have their limitations. All operating systems do. And there's a certain learning curve when you switch operating systems. All those things you knew don't
It's
work exactly the same as they once
essentially
did. And something I always advise when people ask me, what kind of computer should I get? I always say, go where your support is. And that might be your friend or your child, or it might be the Geek Squad. But that's key for the long run is, do you have the support that you need when you need it? And Windows support is overall pretty available. Another option that some of you are probably familiar with is called Zero Patch. And it's a way to support Windows 10 critical patches until 2030. So if you are really going to stay with Windows 10 for the long run, this is a way to go. Zero Patch charges $30 a year for Zero Patch Pro. And it's a way of patching likely to be exploited security features, or security vulnerabilities, sorry. It uses micro patches in memory. It doesn't work quite the same way as the existing Windows patches do. It all patches everything at boot time. Now, bear in mind that with Zero Patch, it doesn't fix all bugs. All those low risk bugs, functional bugs, things like that are going to remain. Zero Patch is only to deal with the likely to be exploited bugs in security. And it isn't going to give you any new features that come along. Your Windows 10 will effectively still be frozen in time. And then the final alternative that we're going to talk some more about is the actual upgrading of your Windows 10 software to Windows 11. It's a pretty easy thing to do if your your current Windows environment meets the requirements that Microsoft sets forward. But even if it doesn't, we'll talk about how to work around those. So I'll stop here and ask if there are any questions so far about these alternatives. Any questions? Okay, then let's move on to the next step. And this is an important step. Before you begin anything, you want to back that up. And things inevitably go wrong. And if you don't have a way to get back where you were before things went wrong, things can go downhill fast. Does anybody here back up their computer? Oh, I don't see any hands going up. Oh, there goes a couple. Okay. Good man, Ben. Okay. Um, there are a lot of different ways to back up your computer. And many of them only back up certain things. For example, some will back up all your data, like your pictures and your documents and your spreadsheets. Some others will back up your system settings. And that's all nice, but what if your disk crashes and you have to replace the disk? What if your motherboard fails and you need an altogether new computer? Will you be able to recover everything using your backup program, or are you going to have to reinvent stuff or just kiss some things goodbye? I'm kind of a nut about backup, which is why I'm going into this. And I believe that your backup program should handle all those kind of eventualities. It should be able to back up and restore your data, meaning the docs and photos and stuff, your operating system and drivers, and also the application programs that you purchased or downloaded. And I'm a fan of this program called Veeam Agent for Microsoft Windows Free because it will back up everything. Now, some people like to keep their backups uh, online at all times because that enables them to automate their backups. And, you know, if you like to do that, have a backup every 10 minutes, that's a way to do it. But as I mentioned, I'm very interested in internet security, and leaving your backup media online is risky because if a bad guy does somehow gain access to your computer, he can wipe out not only your computer's disk, but your online backups as well. So that's why I back up my computer to an external hard drive. And whenever I plug that into my computer, Veeam automatically begins an incremental backup of the changes since the last backup. And then when it's done with that backup, it automatically takes the drive offline. Of course, it can't physically unplug the USB cable, but it logically disconnects the drive. So the drive is no longer visible to the operating system, and thus it's also not visible to anybody who has malicious intent got into your computer. So backing up is all very well, but where the rubber really meets the road is in recovering or restoring. The Veeam software enables you to create a boot device, either DVD or flash drive. And if your computer refuses to boot one day, you can use this boot device to regain access to your computer's hard disk. You've probably already experienced this at some time in your life, that computer won't boot the way you wanted it to. And if you have something set up that will do this sort of bare metal recovery, then you can recover either specific files from to your hard disk, or you can recover the entire hard disk image to that disk. Veeam also allows you to rewind your whole system or specific files to a point in time. For example, if you discover that you changed some files incorrectly 2 weeks ago, you can restore that set of files as they were before you made that oops. And the point here really is that your backup software should enable to recover anything and everything when something goes wrong. And I'm introducing the backup notion here because when you do a Windows upgrade, there's an opportunity for something to go wrong. Although the upgrade itself is pretty robust and you probably won't need your backup. I've never actually run into that level of problem with it. But if you follow best practices and back everything up as you go, then at upgrade time, there's really nothing special for you to do. So I'll stop here again and ask if anybody has a question. Speak on. What do you think?
Yeah, I have a question. I imagine that you regard this program VM as better than the backup built into Microsoft Windows already. Is that true?
right? True.
Yeah, I think that the one that's built in does not do bare metal backup and restore. It's only your files.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Other questions? Okay,
Yeah,
Free.
Alan got one. What
sure.
about Acronis?
What about Acronis?
Acronis backup.
Yes, what about it?
How deep does it go or back up? I know it does offer the option of making a boot flash drive.
I'm not that familiar with Acronis as it currently exists. I did use it at one time, but to be honest, I'm just not familiar enough with it today to give you an intelligent answer about what it can or can't do.
Okay, thanks.
You just, my point here is that you don't need to have that particular brand of backup, but you do want to be able to recover from bare metal. You do want it to bring along all your drivers, all your programs. You want to be able to do incremental backups, and you want to be able to recover to a point in time. Other questions?
Oh, so is there a cost for Veeam or is it free?
There is the version that I was mentioning is free. In fact, it's part of the name, Veeam Agent for Microsoft Windows Free. You have to go to the Veeam website. I'll have a link at the end of the slides and register there. And they will probably try to sell you other stuff. But in my experience, the free version does everything I want it to do. It isn't it isn't the kind of thing you would use for an enterprise. They have other software for that. But it's really a very well thought out backup and restore program. Other questions? Okay, then let's go on to the standard upgrade. Before you, after you've done your backup and before you run the PC health check, go to your PC vendor's website and verify that you have the latest level of BIOS software. And that's so that the PC health check software will know that you have the latest, greatest, and it can make a difference. If you have a down level of the BIOS software, it might actually be something that will cause the PC Health Check app to say, no. So do that first, and then run the PC Health Check app. And you can use, to get to that, you can use Windows search to search for PC Health Check. Or if it turns out you don't have it installed, you can Google PC Health Check and download it from Microsoft. And then to do the actual upgrade, you go to Settings, Update and Security, Windows Update, and just follow the prompts. It's pretty straightforward. It'll reboot multiple times. There are it'll take uh, half an hour or an hour altogether. But in all, it's as long as you've got the right requirements, it just carries on. We'll talk about when things you can't do that, but any questions about the standard upgrade? Okay. Once you have completed that, there are some things that you'll want to do, at least I want to do, which is to clean up all the bloatware and dumb stuff that Microsoft includes in every new version. And there's a program that's called Crap Fixer that will help you do this in a thorough and time-saving way. Crap Fixer is a time saver because it offers you the option to tweak about 100 different features that Microsoft implements. A lot of these things that I don't really care for. The tweaks are selectable, but when I install it, I want to disable features like Copilot and Windows Recall and AI search, that and games and personalized ads, things that I just really don't want to mess with. It can also improve your privacy by reducing the amount of data that's sent to Microsoft servers. For example, the tracking of the apps and files you use, constantly prompting you with pop-up surveys asking, how are we doing? Personalized ads, all of those things are sucking your data off to Microsoft servers. And frankly, I don't need it. Probably you don't either. And then there's all those other little application things that they throw in there, like the stub programs for Candy Crush and TikTok and fun facts on the lock screen and ads on the start menu and promotional banners on the settings app and automatic OneDrive startup. All of those are optional tweaks. You can select them individually. And if later on you find that you don't like a choice that you made, just run it Crap Fixer again and reverse the choice. Now on this slide, you'll see that there are some red items. Those are the recommended ones, and the blue checked items are ones that I've already optimized or selected. So you've now got your computer upgraded to Windows 11, and you've made some tweaks to it. At this point, I'd recommend backing it up once more. And if you have a capable backup program, it should be possible to do an incremental backup here. It will, if in the case of Veeam, it will just do whichever it thinks is best, an incremental or an altogether new, fresh. So, questions about post installation? Okay. Now that's how you upgrade. But what if there's something wrong with your existing setup in Windows 10? You're not 100% happy with the way it is, and you want a fresh installation. Well, first, back up everything because you're going to need it later. And then you can run Windows Media Creation Tool. It's downloadable from the internet, and I'll show you a link later on. And you use that to create a bootable flash drive. And I mentioned on the slide here the range of sizes, but you'll need a minimum of 8 and a maximum of 64 gigabytes on that flash drive. The next thing you want to do is to set your computer's boot priority to enable booting from the flash drive. If you don't do this, it's just going to continue to boot from your C drive or wherever you have it set to boot. So you definitely want to enable booting from the flash drive. And then you proceed pretty much as before. You boot from the flash drive, which will run the installation program, and you follow the prompts just as I mentioned earlier. That'll install Windows 11 for you. But because this was installed on a blank disk, you now have to reinstall all your application programs. And then once you've done that, then you can restore all your data, such as photos and documents, from your backup. And then you've got your new Windows 11 system with a fresh installation. Questions? Okay. Now, what if your hardware doesn't pass the test that Microsoft sends you, the PC health check? They place some rather arbitrary limitations on the installation program. And so a lot of times those limitations are not actually limitations of your hardware. They're just arbitrary ones that Microsoft introduced into the installer. So there's a program called Flyubi, which instead of using the standard Windows installer, it uses the Windows Server installer. And that one bypasses those arbitrary requirements mentioned in the PC health check. So to do this, you just Google Flyubi, download and unzip the file. There's a zip file, and I'll show you the link in a later slide. You run that executable, and it will download the Windows image, Windows 11 from Microsoft's website, and begin the upgrade. Now, notice that as you do so, if you're running Windows Defender, as you should be, it will complain that Flyubi is an unrecognized app, but it's okay. Go ahead and run it. And again, you'll just proceed to the end of the process, installing Windows, follow the prompts, multiple reboots, and at the end, it'll drop you into Crap Fixer, just like I described a moment ago, because those are actually written by the same person, and the two are integrated into Flyubi. So, questions about doing an in-place upgrade using, quote, incompatible hardware?
Well, one question about what you said on the previous screen. You said between 8 gigabyte and 64 gig. How do you know? Uh, which is it? Is it variable?
I'm just saying that 8 is the minimum, 64 is the maximum.
Oh, so 8 would be good enough.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I see.
Other questions?
How far back in processor lives does Flyubi work? And is it necessary to have the TPM part of what's required in BIOS or wherever for the Windows 11 upgrade?
Yeah. You do have to have a TPM, but there are hardware TPMs and firmware TPMs, and there really is no definitive exact standard, because every BIOS and every computer manufacturer is slightly different. I think the only real way to determine it is to just run this, and it'll tell you if it's not okay. But There really isn't a good way to tell otherwise. I haven't actually, I've done a number of installations and I've never actually found one that wouldn't run. But I'm sure you can go far enough back in time, find some really old hardware that won't upgrade.
Okay,
My
well, I'm
computer's
talking
in
about
about,
Windows fourth generation Core i3.
I'm just not that into the hardware that I can give you an intelligent opinion on
Yeah.
that one.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
yeah, my desktop computer is about 10 years old, I think. And I know it definitely does not have a TPM. That mean forget it? Or is there I can still go to Windows 11 anyway somehow?
I've been told that you must have a TPM of some kind. Now, hey, you got nothing to lose. I would just download Flyubi and run it and see what happens. It may be just fine, but I've been told that you have to have a TPM.
Alan, I used Rufus to make a bootable Windows 11 installation, and it bypassed the TPM requirement. I have it running on my Mac Pro.
Well, there we go. I'm going to talk about Rufus a little bit shortly. So
Okay.
that's good to know that Rufus might be just the answer for the questioner.
I'm not sure if it'll work with the latest version of Windows 11, but it did work with the version that I use.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Other questions? Okay. Rufus. Jose, you're my straight man. Rufus is the tool that you need if you want to do a clean installation, not an upgrade, on hardware that did not pass the PC health check. So here's how it's done. Want to verify first that everything is backed up because you're going to need it later. You then download the Windows 11 image from Microsoft and then download and run Rufus. I'll show you the link in a minute. And what Rufus does is it actually modifies the ISO file that you downloaded, and then it installs it onto your flash drive. As I mentioned earlier, you must set the boot priority so that the flash drive will boot. And once again, you just follow the prompts that the installation process gives you, multiple reboots. And that modified Windows 11 installation program will allow you to do a clean installation on your non-standard hardware. Once you've completed that, you'll once again need to reinstall all your application programs. Hopefully you got that well backed up, and similarly restore your data files that were hopefully also backed up. And as Jose mentioned, this is best for other kinds of hardware where you really can't do an upgrade. And it might be the answer to the earlier questioner's point about not having a TPM. Questions about Rufus or doing a clean installation on incompatible hardware? Okay, what happens if things go horribly wrong? I did upgrade one system where there were some corrupted files on it, and I had to use a couple of these commands, but they're pretty straightforward, actually. You may well be familiar with the first one, which is the troubleshooter. And you go to the Windows troubleshooter, and one of those troubleshooters is other, and that's the one for Windows Update. Just run it, and it may find your problems. One that I mentioned was there were some corrupted files on the original disk, and the way to deal with corrupted files is to run DISM and then SFC, which some of you probably have already are familiar with. The third recommended step is to clear the Windows Update cache in case it was corrupted, and the steps are also there. I've never had to do this one, but worthwhile to know it's an option. Questions about troubleshooting? So here are the links, and you'll find those if you look at this Windows 11 upgrade.pdf file. You'll see this slide there, where to get the downloads, where to get the backup software, where to get Flyubi, where to get Crap Fixer, and where to get Rufus. So, any questions? Then thank you, Ben. I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alan. An excellent presentation.
You're welcome.
And that link you gave us at the beginning is your slideshow.
That's right.
Okay, so we could go there.